Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in to this week's edition of Stop, Look, and Listen. I'm your host, LeTroy Gardner. This week, we have a special guest. He's the CEO and founder of Drum Talk TV, the largest online media brand covering the world of drumming, and they do a whole lot more. We have Dan Shinder. Welcome to the show, Dan.
Thank you so much for having me. Really appreciate it. And I got to tell you right off the bat, I love the name of your show because people don't do that enough, right? I mean, whether they're out for a walk or doing household stuff or running a business, people really do need to stop, look, and listen more.
Yeah. So, out of the three, which one do you feel like society has the biggest problem with? Stopping, looking, or listening? I'm going to say listening.
I agree. I think it's listening. I think it's important that we recognize when we need to stop or pause. Looking, you got to always be aware and look around and see things not in a vacuum, but with different perspectives, and not put people or things or types of people in a box. But yeah, listening is so critical because when you don't listen, you often aren't getting the true meaning of something, and that's when stuff gets discombobulated, goes sideways, and it all falls apart. Whether it's your partner in life, whether it's a team that you're working with, or placing an order at a restaurant, whatever it is. I agree. It's the most important element of those three.
Mm-hmm. And obviously, what you do with Drum Talk, listening is very fundamental. I was in New Orleans over the weekend and just hearing, the street musicians,
Yeah.
banging on the buckets and making money that way. When did you fall in love with drumming?
I fell in love with drumming 55 or 6 years ago. I was 6, and I had an older cousin of 7 years who was playing drums, and I just thought it was fascinating because I had heard music, but then to see someone like doing that, and it's a bit different than sitting at a piano or playing guitar or bass, because it's like you're working a machine, all four limbs are working and all that. And I think as a kid I was fascinated. My parents were crazy enough to say, okay, we'll get you drum lessons and a practice pad, and if you stick with it, we'll get you a drum set. And I did not come from money, so that was a really big offer, especially at the time. And so by my 7th birthday, I proved that I was really into it, and I got my first drum set, and that's when I really just fell in love with playing and what it did and the way it feels, like not just physically but emotionally, mentally. With drumming, it's the most athletic instrument, if you will. So you get the endorphins going, and there's just so many dynamics there of different things happening. And so now I'm 62, still playing and still figuring it out. Sometimes I don't like saying how long I've been playing because should probably be a lot better, but I still enjoy it so much. I really do.
Right. So, like, a lot of people either get their start drumming in church or in schools, or in some cases, if they're a little bit later, joining an actual band or group.
Yeah.
Like, did you try all three, or which path did
Yeah.
you take?
It's surprisingly, there's one that just I bailed on. I'll get to that. So when I was a little kid and I started playing, I would see shows like from time to time, Soul Train, American Bandstand, the Monkees TV series was on the weekends, and I thought, how cool to live in a band house, until I lived in a band house. That's another story. But I wanted that. Like, I wanted to be part of it. So I think it was when I was 14. No, let me back up. I started playing with the school concert band in junior high when I was 12. Back then, junior high was grade 7 through 9. So my mom suggested it, and I think everyone's heard, to this day still, that kids who learn a musical instrument typically develop better study habits. There's some neurological stuff that goes on there. And so I said, okay, so I joined concert band playing symphonies and stuff like that. And then I joined the Tuesday night jazz band at the same time, and I was really into that. But when I was 14, a couple, 3 or 4 friends came over with electric guitar, electric bass, electric piano, and like we just jammed. And that was like, oh my gosh, this is like what I hear on the radio. It doesn't sound anything like what I heard on the radio, but I think you know what I mean. It was the combo of musicians playing in that form versus 40 kids with trumpets and oboes and flutes, which was great. But this was different because it was more pop oriented. And then I knew I wanted to be in a band. So I was in that kind of band for the first time when I was 15, and everyone was older than me. And we just crushed it for 3.5 years. It was the most amazing experience. But I went on my first tour, professional tour as a musician, when I was 15. And I played drums in the backup band for what was called a singing group back then called Spirit of America. And I toured the country at 15, playing at state fairs, opening for bands like Heart, Styx, Blue Oyster Cult, I mean, Pat Boone. It was incredible. And the year before that, though, is when I decided I wanted to be a drummer for a living. And what changed was I wanted to be the next Jacques Cousteau. I was really into oceanography as a kid. But when I was 14, my dad took me to see Led Zeppelin. And by the third or fourth song, it just occurred to me, the light bulb went on above my head. I thought, oh, like that could be a career path. So after my hearing came back a couple of days later, sat my parents down. I said, I don't want to be a scientist anymore. I don't want to be an oceanographer. My mom said, oh, what do you want to be? And I said, I think I want to be a professional drummer like John Bonham. And she passed out, and we revived her with the smelling salts and the paddles. And I think she was disappointed for a while, but she's the one that found the audition for that tour exactly 1 year later. And then going on that tour really proved to myself that that's what I wanted to do. And I played professionally until I was about around, I'm trying to think of which kid was born when, maybe 30. But around 26 or 24, I started doing a lot of studio work and writing, composing, and recording, and even producing music for like radio commercials and short films and things like that. And then it got to a point, quite frankly, where I just didn't want to be in a band anymore and be married to 3 other idiots and their problems. Like, I'm sure they thought it was like they with me. You know, it's just part of being in a band, that whole dynamic. So that's kind of what my curvature of that journey was, from my parents saying, yeah, we'll do it, to playing in different things. But the thing that I bailed on was going into high school. I had some friends that were in marching band. And so my mom said, you know, if you take marching band, you don't have to take PE. And not that I'm not sports oriented or anything, but I just thought that sounded so cool. Wow, play music instead of falling down in the mud. Okay. So I started marching band, and about 8 weeks into it, I told my parents, I said, I don't want to do this. And they're like, really? Like, they were so shocked. He said, why? And I said, it's not fun. I said, the musical director is hard for me to understand. I remember I was 15. I hadn't like been around a lot. He had a real strong Austrian accent. So he's hard to understand. He never smiles. It's really regimented, and it's not fun. And I got into music for the fun of it. So they said, okay, let's just go back to PE. So I bailed on marching band, which means I missed all the amazing learnings that come from that. There's a lot of really great rudimental stuff that people get out of being in drum corps and marching band. And there's the camaraderie. There's all those things that I did miss out on, but I think I more than made up for it in other areas. So I admire people that are in drum corps or have been through drum corps, whether or not they then or before took up drum set playing or hand drum playing. I got a lot of different hand drums back here from Africa and other parts of the Middle East. Over there, darbukas and djembes and some Latin percussion and stuff. So I play just about every percussion instrument I've ever been able to get my hands on. And I love it. And that's part of the ethos of Drum Talk TV, why we cover music from all over the world and not just the top gold and platinum pop, rock, and jazz artists. We do that, not just the top educators, but we go deep into the rich corners of the earth where music is very ingrained into the culture. You know, places like Japan, Brazil, India, Bangladesh, you know, those whole regions, North Africa, all of the Middle East, the music from there is just so enchanting. And it's always been really interesting to me. Orchestral music, symphonic music, everything. So that's what makes us a little bit different from others in our space.
Okay. All right. So, like, take us back to the beginning of Drum Talk TV. What were you doing before that? And just talk about that light bulb moment that, you know what? I'm going
Yeah.
to create a platform that showcases my love for drumming and, you
I
know,
have to give it up for this lady, my wife. My wife, Enja, is the one that had the light bulb moment.
uh-huh.
I I had a video production company for 14 years and I did like training videos, marketing videos, things like that. Weird that I never thought of Drum Talk TV during that time, but it came to a point where I wasn't doing that because I took care of my father in his last 16 weeks. And when that was done, I told my wife, I don't want to work with big companies anymore. Let me work with you. I'll make all your videos. I'll do your marketing. She's a professional artist and a therapist. We did that for a little bit. And she said, you know, you really should do something that is just really for you. And the thought bubble right next to her head, I know she was thinking this idiot needs to play with someone else. You know, maybe it got too close. And I was 50 and I didn't know what I wanted to do for the first time in my life. And she said, well, you told me you used to teach drum lessons. Why don't you do that? And when she said that, I thought, I still play. I know how to teach. Now I know streaming video production. Yeah, let's do that. So I started Dan's Drum Clinics, which was going to be an online lesson platform. That's where I really cut my teeth on content marketing on social media. And I did so well that I had followers in 64 countries before I even published the first lesson. 64 countries. I thought they're like 5 countries, right? United States, Canada, Mexico, Italy, and Wyoming, something like that. And and so I did that for a while, but then I started interviewing other players or educators. And she said, that's what you should do. She saw me do interviews in another space when I had the video production company, the charter yacht industry in Australia, some different things. And I said, no, it's just an extra thing on the website, an interview here and there. She said, I'm telling you, that's what's going to be big. She told a friend, he told a friend, they all ganged up on me. And I thought, okay, maybe I'm the dum-dum that doesn't see it. So that was, I started it in August of 2012. And by January of 2013, I closed Dan's Drum Clinics and officially opened Drum Talk TV as a LLC. And then we became a C Corp, a corporation, in April of 2020. And I never set out for it to grow the way it did. I did set out to do the things we've done, which is cover all the different types of music, do documentaries, do interviews. I did set out to do that, but I had no idea we'd reach 100 million people a year online without spending money for it. I had no idea we'd acquire now almost 4 million fans just on Facebook alone, not counting the other platforms. Like, that was never part of the plan. But I think the lesson in there that I've heard, and I'm sure you have too, so many times, is that if you do the right things and you focus on the right things, the rest just happens, right? It just kind of falls into place. And if you don't set out, like some people say, if you set out for a goal and that's all you focus on, but you'll make it happen. And that's true, but the goal was never the growth or the reach. And we just skyrocketed past everybody in our space, which was never the plan. And we were the newest brand by 10 years when we came out. And in that first year, we achieved 900% more online reach and engagement than all of the others combined. And that inspired me to start a marketing, coaching / training company to teach how to do what I've done. And I still have that company, and I've worked with nonprofits, solopreneurs, the music industry, Sydney to Hobart yacht race, Ford dealerships. It goes, and I love that. I don't do it because I've got a lot of extra time, but I do it because I felt obligated to share that knowledge and help other people learn how to do better at what they do so they can help more people. And I think by nature, I've got a nurturing personality, so I love teaching, love training. Fun fact, my wife and I have a blended family of 11 kids, 19 grandkids, a 1.5-year-old great grandson, and we just adopted our 4th puppy a week ago when we have 2 cats. So I guess I'm kind of nurturing, and maybe
Right.
that's where that part comes from. I didn't do it because I had a bunch of monumental open time to fill.
Uh-huh. Yeah,
But
that's
that
a
light bulb
beautiful thing.
moment was her saying,
Uh-huh.
that's what you should do, because she saw me do the interviews.
Yeah, so I mean, clearly, like when you all put this baby in motion, to where we are now with, like you said, 1.5 million followers. When did you get to the point where this is working? Let me put more gas in the car and continue
Yeah,
to push forward.
that's a great question, because there's really 2 answers to that. I knew it was working at that 8-month mark when it was pointed out to me that we were achieving all that reach and all that stuff and just skyrocketing past others. And I was getting great guest gold and platinum artists and things like that. So I knew that was, quote, working. But the monetization part took quite a while to kick in. In fact, I started bootstrapping Drum Talk TV from the money I made from the marketing training company. And I had an agency as well for the first maybe 8 years of that. So that was paying the household bills and funding Drum Talk TV as I started to add more people eventually. But the concept and what it was created to do was working within the first year. It wasn't until maybe year 5 that we were eating from money coming in from Drum Talk TV, if that makes sense.
Hmm.
So there were 2 different things, and there was a time where it got so rough that my wife, bless her heart, said, maybe you need to go back to corporate America. Maybe you need to start up the video part. Maybe. And I just thought, oh my gosh, we're so far into this. And that's never a good reason to stick with something, by the way. I'll get back to that. But I thought we're doing, like, everyone looks at us like we're this huge brand. I mean, the artists that we get and the documentaries we've been making, all this. I said, I know I can make this work. I can make this work. And we have, and we did, and it's great. We love it. It's a lot of work, but sometimes people don't give up on something because they're too invested in it, either emotionally, or they put so much money into it that they feel they can't abandon it, or they've just put so much into learning that space, or just because someone, I hope I don't offend anybody out there, but just because someone goes to college to be a doctor, it doesn't mean you have to be a doctor. You could say, screw it, I'm opening a motorcycle shop because that's who I am. Those are my peeps, and I want to be happy. And I think too many people live by the fold flap A and insert in slot C mentality that their family tells you this is how it works. You do this, then you do this, then you die, and I think a lot of people have that, man, I should have, and I wish I could, and I've always wanted to. It doesn't matter how far you got into something, it's never too late to say, I'm not doing that anymore. I could do it now, but I don't want to yet.
Right.
But I think that's important, and I think that's part of the stop, look, and listen ethos as well, because sometimes you got to stop and you got to ask, is this working? And you should always look at what is working and leverage that and do more of it. Look at what's not working and either fix it, polish it, or get rid of it. And do listen to what others are saying, but not your friends. What? Not your friends? Well, the thing is that our friends, bless their hearts, they care too much, right? They're going to hold our hand, nod, smile, and walk us to the cliff and then let go because they don't want to hurt our feelings. You got to ask someone like me that's going to punch you in the face, knock you down the stairs, run down the stairs before you get up, hit you in the jaw again, and then pick you up, dust you off, make you some soup, and show you what needs to be done to make this work. And that's important to ask the right people, and don't ask people for advice who haven't done what you want to do. It doesn't have to be the same thing, but don't ask people how to build a company that never built a company. Things like that. And it's so important to that, surrounding yourself with the right people so you have the right people to listen to and look at and mirror and model, whether you know them personally or, like, I listen to 2 or 3 audiobooks a month on business, and that's like, those are my mentors, even though I only know one of them personally. I looked in my library yesterday because I sent a fellow founder of a whole different business and a different industry. We're like trading book things. So I said, let me look at my library. 35 books in like the last 18 months. I was like, oh my gosh. And some of them I've listened to 3 or 4 times. And that's important. You got to feed your brain and keep learning. You know, there's so many people, and I think especially people my age in their 60s and upward, that they get a certain amount of success and they think they're done learning. And we should always be learning from not just the type of resources I mentioned, but other people, and not just successful people, but someone that's just starting their first business, you know, someone that just got promoted at a job. Everyone has some sort of wisdom. It's just a matter of A, have they learned to recognize it and articulate it yet? And B, are others willing to listen to it? Even if someone's up here in the business strata, someone else is down here, it doesn't mean they don't have value that we can learn from. Because by the time we went from here to here, there might be some gold there that we forgot about, or we take for granted, or think that maybe it doesn't apply to us now. And I've never adopted that thinking. I've always got a wide radar with the voltage on all the way, and it's important. I think that's really a big part of the stop, look, and listen.
Okay. Well, continuing with the stop, look, and listen theme, I think when it comes to that, and especially what you've been doing with Drum Talk TV, there's a lot of iterating that takes place and listening to the feedback of your subscribers and supporters. Just talk about the different phases, content wise, that you've gone through with Drum Talk TV.
I love that, because you're right. The only way something grows is to go through different iterations. And I think it was it Arnold Schwarzenegger who said, you're going to fall, but fall forward. Always fall forward. You're going to fall. If you're not failing at something, you're not trying hard enough. You're just moving stuff around or mailing it in. You've got to, and I don't like the word fail, but everyone knows what that means. You know, one of the most famous stories, of course, is Thomas Edison. The numbers change with each time you hear the story, but let's just take 1,000. People say, you know, he failed 1,000 times at inventing, you know, the light bulb, and he found 1,000 ways it wouldn't work. You've got to iterate to get better and better. And you've got to be willing to let go of an iteration, you know, going back to that. We did that with Drum Talk TV not long ago. 3 years ago, we started developing a membership site. And in that membership site, we have all sorts of exclusive experiences. It's not just for drummers, for all types of music fans. One of the things I wanted to include, and this is where open constant learning comes in, because I had this huge light bulb moment. I wanted to have an education arm in the membership site where I would have drum and music instructors that focused on different things, whether it was different genres, different techniques, different whatever. And I brought on a good friend of mine who was going to be the dean of that side of the membership site. Great instructor, great educator, professional drummer, great guy. And I was listening to a book called Alchemy by Rory Sutherland. That might have been the first book that set me on this 35, now 36 book trend so far. And it's a marketing book. And when Rory Sutherland said, and this is not uncommon knowledge, but when it was just a matter of my headspace. And I remember I was in the kitchen making food for the dogs in the morning. And when he said, in his beautiful London accent, you can't give people too many choices or they won't choose. And I thought, it dawned on me, oh my gosh, we're doing live stream concerts. We have fan Q&As with artists, producers, and record executives. We do this. We were developing a game show series. We're doing that. And then we got all this education. And I realized there was also an issue of corralling. Like, if you've ever herded cats, herding musicians is harder than herding cats. And it was hard to get them to make their introductory video. All this stuff was going on. And when I heard him say that, I thought, there is plenty of brands out there crushing it in the drumming education space. What came over me to think for a second we should include that and compete with them? Axed it right away. even with all the work we put into building this 3D model of a place you'd literally 3D walk into, select your instructor, look at their bio, watch their introductory video. I mean, we just scrapped it because I said, no, we can't do that. There's 5 other brands doing so well just doing that. Why would we do that? It just took that moment of someone else from the outside to say that. So that opened all this space to really work on this new iteration, which wasn't new other than we got rid of something. Mm-hmm. So it's really important to constantly create new versions, better versions. And exactly like he said, listen to what your followers are saying. If you're a product or service provider, what are your customers saying? What are your prospects saying? Why are they with the other lady instead of you? Why are they saying no? Ask them, can you teach me something today? Why? Can you just help me out? It'll help me with the next person. And maybe we'll circle back. And people usually are going to answer that because people, for better or worse, they like their voice heard, right? And they're going to say, well, it's because your pricing's too steep, or I knew her in college and I've been doing business with her for 20 years. Oh, okay. Well, I just learned it has nothing to do with my pricing, my product, my location. It's so important to listen to people and listen to the right people, but we're still iterating. We do a music-themed game show twice a month. It's live, and we have all the team members, about 9 of us, plus a couple of the business partners, participate in the game show as if we're playing. And I give a disclaimer in the beginning for everybody else that's playing. I say there are some Drum Talk TV team members here, and if they, for whatever reason, happen to win a round, the next person down gets to choose the prize wheel. We have prize wheels they spin in there. So we're very upfront about it. And I tell them it's for development, so we can experience our own stuff. You got to eat your own dinner if you're a chef, right? And when we're done, we record each show. And then when everyone leaves and it's just the team, we stop the recording, start it again, and we go around the virtual table on Zoom. We say, what worked better? What did I forget? Because I'm the MC, I'm running the show. And we get a lot out of that. So you got to constantly, no matter how well you do, look at how are you doing right now, this moment, because maybe you did really well 2-3 months ago or 2 years ago because the algorithms worked more in your favor, or you had them figured out then, or maybe your followership changed somehow, or you don't know unless you know, and the only way you know is to really, always use one of these. Got to constantly put everything under a magnifying glass. Actually, this is to read really small labels on things. But I love that you brought that up. No one talks about that you got to constantly, people think, no, I'm going to design this and this is how it is and this is what we've got. Take it or leave it. No, you got to iterate constantly.
Yeah. And I like the fact that you brought up not listening to friends all the time, because it's hard for them to give you an honest critique and be, just give it to you real. They're going to sugarcoat and make it seem like everything you're doing is great, but it's not resonating beyond that circle.
Right. And I think, LeTroy, that there's things you can ask them, but the best way I would recommend that is, like, let's take that restaurant example. If you have a restaurant and you're asking some friends or family, should I serve this or should the menu this or that? Have them eat your food first, and with Drum Talk TV, that's why I have our team join in the games. How can they give feedback or recommend something that we do differently or even keep doing if they haven't experienced it? So whatever your product or service or whatever you provide is, if you got some friends that you trust and will be honest enough to not be afraid to hurt your feelings, have them play with that product first. Have them come to a meeting or, whatever it is you do, and then give them a questionnaire. Ask them to fill this out without you present, and then go over it with them. Then you can hear the voice inflection, see the body language. They'll elaborate on things. But it's important that if you're going to ask friends, that you do it in a way where they're not just going to tell you what they think you want to hear. and they can't do it without having experienced what you're asking them about.
Right.
Dr. Todd McLean provides periodontal and dental implant services in 2 convenient locations. They offer over a decade of experience treating patients, and appointments can even be scheduled in the evenings, weekends, or early mornings. Give them a call in Chapel Hill at 919-537-9774 or in Durham at 919-484-8338 or visit them online at gumsandimplants.org.
Let's talk about Drum Talk TV Brilliance, your subscription-based model. Like, at what point did you feel like, I'm done putting out free content and shifting your audience, your subscribers to the membership model?
So I hate that my wife can probably hear me because my office door is open and she's going to hear over and over all this credit I'm giving her. Well, maybe that'll score points. I don't know. But for a long time, she said during Drum Talk TV, and we still do have all the same free content. There's nothing we've done that we now moved into the paid part. And that's where I was stuck, LeTroy, because she kept saying, you should do Patreon. You should do Patreon. Okay, let me look into Patreon. So I looked into Patreon, and the key is that you have to offer exclusive content that would be for your Patreon members. And I was stuck. I was like, what are we going to offer? This went on for 2 years, maybe. Finally, she hammered on me so hard, and she does have a rolling pin made out of marble, okay? Mm-hmm. So I came in here. I turned off the main lights. I'm in the glow of just the LED lights, and I thought, what could we do? What could we do? And that first iteration that also did include the education just poured out of me onto a digital notepad. Once I got one idea, just and I had all this stuff, and I came out of the cave with like, look, I've got it. Like I was hit by lightning or something. And that was about 3 years ago, and we spent the first year really sort of tossing these ideas around and asking. At the time we had maybe 2 people, 3 people working with Drum Talk TV. We're 9 as a core now. And one of them is my son, our youngest son. He's 8, but he's real smart. No, he's not 8. He's going to be 31 this year. And Steve has been with me about 8 years. And so he was an integral part because he's of a different generation. He's not a musician. So some great objectivity there, great perspective. And then a year later, we started like developing this stuff. And again, going back to your magical point about iterations, we started developing stuff that was so cool, but maybe the people that were in on that part of it just weren't a fit. So we scrapped it. And it was when I came up with those ideas that we felt, okay, this can work. We can do a membership site. Agonized over the pricing and all this stuff. I did a ton of research, and to the point where I just threw my hands up, and I wanted to make it $17 a month or $170 a year. We ended up, under my team's recommendation, let's go with 12. Let's go with so it's there's a free membership, free layer. Then there's $12 a month or $120 a year. And now we're getting ready to release 4 other levels. There's 2, the top 2 ones are crazy. $2,400 for a year one-time pay, $4,200 a year for one-time pay. Comes with all this crazy stuff that they're included in, and Dan will make you a cake and come wash your car if you live in the United States. Something stupid like that. But then like Steve and Enja, my wife's name's Enja, they came up with what we're now calling the Gig Pass. So the Gig Pass is like, let's say we're having LeTroy on, a golden platinum artist, coming on for a fan Q&A, going to talk about the latest album, who we got to play on it, all that stuff. And maybe someone doesn't want to join the membership, but they want to be part of that Q&A. They can buy a ticket to just that one event. Right. So the idea is that so that people don't sign up, do the one thing, and then bail. This way, hopefully, they'll pay for one gig thing, another gig thing, pay for 3 or 4, and then realize, I should just sign up for $12 a month. It's less than a bucket of chicken a month. It's less than a pizza a month. I mean, how hard could this be, right? And that's why we priced it that way. But tons of value. The the fan Q&A sessions are done in virtual reality amphitheaters. One of them looks like a campsite, actually. And you don't need special goggles. You could access these environments on a PC, a laptop, a tablet, or even your phone. And you can just, with your fingers on the phone, navigate around the campfire site. And me and the artist are on this big screen. And if you want to ask that artist a question, there's a sign that says, if you want to ask so-and-so a question, press this button. And there's an arrow. When they magically click on that button, it puts them in the queue in StreamYard backstage to ask a question. And I'm just a moderator, not the interviewer during those shows. And I say, okay, Sally, great. Thanks for asking LeTroy that question. LeTroy, next we got Benny from North Carolina. Benny, it's your turn. I bring Benny up on screen. I disappear. Benny gets to ask you a question and stays on the screen for everyone else to see until you're done with that answer. Then I come back on. So it's really an immersive experience. There's a dig me factor. And, you know, the interesting thing, and one of the reasons I created this feature is because since COVID and even before, artists are really trimming back their touring schedule and where they go. Like, I live 100 miles from Phoenix up in the mountains. So even in a metropolis like Phoenix with 4 million people, there's bands that are not coming through every tour. Every other tour, maybe they'll skip San Diego but come to Phoenix, or they'll skip Phoenix and then go to Denver. You know, they'll shuffle some around. But then think of the people like in Fargo or in Okefenokee, Kansas, or people where no one's ever toured. Now those people can get on a screen with one of their favorite artists, meet them, ask a question. So that's how we came up with that. All the experiences are very exclusive. When I say live stream concerts, we don't go to a concert with cameras and stream it. These are performances put on by the artists we have relationships with exclusively for our members, piped to them through our system. It might be in their living room, might be in their studio, might be at a venue for sound check or something before a big show. And then there's the game shows and things. But that going back to, sorry, the answer was so long, but going back to her question again, it was her light bulb moment inspiring me to get on Patreon. I don't know what to do different. She locked me in here, and with enough standing in the corner time with the lights off, I came up with some ideas, and we just kicked butt working really hard to develop it, not for the sake of having things developed, but to really make sure we're delivering something that's worth it and that there's a really great value proposition for the music fan. And now we're going through the brain bending, like, talk about gluttons for punishment, right? Remember, 11 kids, 19 grandkids, et cetera, et cetera. Now we're expanding Drum Talk TV is going under the umbrella of our new company called Brilliance Entertainment Group. And Brilliance Entertainment Group will not only have Drum Talk TV, but we're starting to grow Guitar Talk TV, Bass Talk TV, Keyboard Talk TV, Horn Talk TV, Vocal Talk TV, and Music Talk TV. We have a news desk show every Friday. It's music industry news on Drum Talk TV. That'll slide over to Music Talk TV, which will be all documentaries and all editorial news and stuff. So we're working on building that over the next 2 or 3 years, and taking everything we learned building Drum Talk TV and basically replicating those same strategies and methodologies to appeal to more people and provide more of the same thing but different, if you will. And it's painful and fun at the same time. I'm excited about it. One of my favorite things about doing all of this is having a great team of people. You know, going back to something we talked about in the beginning, surrounding yourself with the right people, not just as mentors, but to work with. And the company culture that you develop says everything about how things are going to go. Really, I'm trying to remember the author's name who said, I don't want to take time looking it up, but maybe I'll email it to you for show notes or something. Okay. How you do anything is how you do everything. When I read that or heard that in the audiobook, it went through me like a lightning bolt. How you do anything is how you do everything. So if you slough off on this, that, and the other thing, It's a reflection of how you do anything. If you're super articulate about the records you keep about this or that, that's how you do everything. I'm one of those weirdos that is fanatically always on time. Always on time. Always. And my dad taught me 15 minutes early is on time. And I'm like 1 minute, if I know I'm going to be 1 minute late because I hit the one red light in our little town, I'm like getting anxiety pains. I'm texting, I hit the light, I might be a minute late. Like, it's really important to me to be on time.
Sounds like your dad was in the military.
You know what? He wasn't, but he grew up as the youngest of four brothers, had a younger sister, grew up in a rough area. Venice, California was rough at the time in Southern California, and grew up really, I guess you could say, having to take care of themselves. I mean, my grandparents were there for them, but there was a lot of bullying and gang type stuff going on in Venice, California at the time. And my dad used to tell me we used to beat up the gangs that were the bad guys is what we used to do. But my dad, he was the smartest guy I ever knew, and he didn't graduate high school. He left high school in the middle of 11th grade to help the family. The oldest brother was off at the war, and that kind of story. And he ended up being a top executive at the McDonald's Corporation. Just a self-made guy that made the right choices, did the right thing, did a lot of stopping, a lot of looking, and a lot of listening. Again, I love the name of your show. It's the key to success, those three things. And I think my dad was a great example of, and nothing against college degrees. My son, Steven, first degree in our family. But it's not about what you read. It's not about what you believe. It's not about what degree is on the wall. It's all about your behavior, the choices you make, and how you play them out. That's what makes who we are. Knowledge is one thing, intelligence is another. Knowledge is taking in information and regurgitating onto a test, getting a great grade. Knowledge is important, but intelligence is making the right decisions. It's being decisive. It's weighing the different components, being objective, sitting at the grown-ups table and being able to say, geez, that decision really sucked. We're not doing that ever again. And that was my dad. My mom was smart too, but my dad set that example. And I mean, at 15, they let me go on tour. They must have been crazy. But they were like, if this is what you want to do, the only way it's going to happen is if you do it. And that part's up to you, so we support you. And that was just my upbringing. But they were like being in the military when it came to being on time. And, long before this amazing magical device, riding bikes around the neighborhood, going out with friends, my dad always said, you can be late if you call. There's a phone booth on every corner. If you're going to be late, you got to call, and then it's all good. So
Great.
Yeah.
Great. So, let's pivot to your marketing savvy when it comes to growing your brands. We'll add an S to it now that you're expanding.
Yeah. Before we do that, can I,
Okay, go ahead.
Since we covered the membership site, can I give out a code that your viewers and listeners can use for a free year, a whole year of a membership? Would that be okay?
Yeah, you could either do it now or when we prepare to close, I can.
Okay. Whatever you want. It's your show. Let me know.
Okay.
I didn't
let's
want to
do it.
forget. That's why I brought it up.
Well, I'll set you up later on.
Okay, cool. Perfect. Thanks.
Okay. Yeah.
So marketing.
Yeah. So I've worked at a tech company producing their podcast, and I felt like in that situation, marketing controlled the content, and we had social media experts on hand, and they were using a lot of SEO implementation and other tricks that would increase engagement and things like that. But it wasn't. I felt like it didn't have the sustainability when it comes to building an audience. Now I see that you've grown Drum Talk TV without the usage of SEO or ads. Give us the secret sauce behind that.
So the only SEO that has seeped into everything we've done is sort of the natural SEO that's there, but I've never paid for ads. I've never bought AdSense or AdWords or any of that. I've never worried about Google ranking. Don't care. Doesn't matter. In some instances, of course it does. I'm not a dummy. But for Drum Talk TV and for my marketing company, I don't want to work with just anybody, to be honest with you. Learned that from Michael Port, to instill the red velvet rope policy. Only work with those who enabled you to do your best work. That goes with customers, your team members, business partners, vendors, anybody. And I only want to work with people who I know are going to put in the work, because that's how they're going to get results. It doesn't serve me or them well if I put people through my marketing course or I give them coaching, but they're learning from 3 other people and they're going to make their own hodgepodge quilt of all these things. Then it doesn't work. And they say, oh yeah, I did Dan's thing. It didn't work. What? You didn't apply anything I taught. So I'm real selective. So I don't care about Google rankings in my case. What I realized when I started Dan's Drum Clinic shortly before Drum Talk TV is I realized the lessons wouldn't matter unless I had an audience to see them. And I also realized that by advertising lessons, that was probably not going to attract the audience. Well, I realized the same thing with Drum Talk TV. Even though I planned on and started from the beginning to get gold and platinum artists, I knew that in any instance, in any business or product or service, it's not about what you offer that's going to get them to sustain that following that you mentioned, LeTroy. It's going to be how you deliver it and what value are you giving. And the value isn't always in this is what we sell, this is what we do. And that's one of the biggest problems in marketing, is that on social channels, all people are doing are saying, buy this, here's my thing, this is what it does, buy my thing, scan the code, download the discount, buy the thing, sign up for the thing, buy the thing, buy the thing, buy the thing. People won't listen to a radio station that plays 25 minutes of commercials and then has one song and then 25 minutes of commercials. And I ask people, so why do you run your social channels that way? Well, I got on social for my business to advertise. Right, but if that's all you do, no one's going to be listening or watching. So I came up with about 12 different categories of content that we posted to attract and keep the followers on Drum Talk TV, so that when we did advertise, hey, we just put out a documentary we filmed in Japan on taiko drumming, or Dan's going to have Nico McBrain from Iron Maiden on, or James Gadsden, who played with just about every R&B and soul group on the planet, the most recorded R&B drummer, there'd be an audience. Like, it doesn't matter if I'm not doing it just to hear myself talk with them. I can go visit them for that. And I tell people, what I teach is that this works in any industry. If you have a car dealership, don't just post the cars for sale. Yeah, you got to post that, but post DIY stuff. How do you take care of the finish? How do you take care of the interior? Is it leather? Is it vinyl? Is it cloth? Take care of it, and here's what you use. How about the tires? How do you take care of the rims? I got a dog that, one of our 4 dogs, the older male, he pees on our truck wheels all the time. I don't know what the deal. So I needed to learn, like, how do I do that? I was teaching this to some Ford dealerships, and I said, do a DIY workshop on how to change your oil. And of course, the service manager stood up in the back and said, we don't want people to learn how to do that. We want them to bring the car into the service department. I said, I guarantee you, if you show videos on doing oil changes and show how messy it could be, they will get a ticket racing to your service department. Show things that have to do with nostalgia or history with whatever you do, whether you raise chickens, you sell shoes, you do hiking, you do sports, you do therapy, you sell cars, whatever it is, it all works the same way. So you got to come up with what I call community building content to attract and keep the followers, so that in the 20 to 30% of the sales content category, you've got an audience that has fallen in love with who you are, what you do, how you do it, and they trust you. And then you get customers from that. But if all you do is advertise, who's going to pay attention to that?
Mm-hmm. What is social media on steroids?
Social media on steroids is the branded series of the workshops that I started before I started developing into courses. I do a free workshop once a month, and I'll pick a couple topics out of my course, teach the whole thing. A lot of them come with worksheets and stuff like that. And social media on steroids started because I was teaching the marketing strategies on social media, like how I did what we did on social. But I'm also a certified NLP trainer, neuro-linguistic programming, and there's so many things in the neurology of language and consumerism and the buyer's journey, the psychology of marketing, that I started dumping all that into the course. So now a lot of what I teach is applicable also to email marketing, podcasting, blogging, even writing books on improving whatever. So it's much more well-rounded. So the name of the company now is called Advanced Social Marketing, but it goes on much more than just social media. But there's a lot of myths out there that I love busting, because anybody with one of these, a keyboard for your computer, says they, quote, do social media. And there's a lot of social media admins and a lot of agencies that don't even know what the 12 brand archetypes are. And if someone doesn't know what the 12 brand archetypes are, but they're doing your social media, they don't know what your brand's voice is. Well, the brand could tell them our voice is this, but a lot of people have that confused with how they talk, the vernacular they used, and all of that. That's not what the brand of a voice is. The brand of a voice is one of the 12 brand archetypes. You have the caregiver, the hero, the jester, the sage, and 8 others. And one of the myths I love busting is a lot of people believe that certain platforms are age-centric. So they'll say, yeah, the older guys like Dan are only on Facebook and LinkedIn, and the 18 to 24-year-olds are only on Instagram and TikTok. I say, really? I'm in my 60s, and TikTok's my favorite platform as a consumer. Who do I follow? Sylvester Stallone, Anthony Robbins, Anthony Hopkins, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Al Pacino. I name all these guys in their 60s and 70s or even 80s. So people just have that all mixed up, because the biggest problem in marketing, LeTroy, is everyone's doing and believing everyone's doing what everyone else is doing because that's what everyone else is doing. So they think it's the right thing to do. Same thing with these myths. So that I love teaching this stuff, because I teach from the experience of achieving extraordinary results. And when someone says, no, that's not how it works, I say, well, like hashtags. We didn't even start using hashtags till we had 500,000 followers on Facebook, and we're around for 5 years. So no one could tell me, you gotta have them. We didn't have them. And people are still doing them wrong. When people use generic hashtags, they think they're riding some magical wave and their post is gonna magically show up somewhere. How's that gonna happen if 400,000 people on social are using hashtag Motivation Monday on Monday? Your post is going to be lost in that sea of 400,000 other posts. So if someone searches that hashtags or clicks on it, how's yours going to... it's just, I get so worked up about this. But those are the things that I love to teach out of my experience of getting it right. And all I did was use some uncommon sense, some logic, and tested stuff. Used what worked, threw away what didn't.
Yeah.
So that's the whole social media on steroids spark and wildfire, if you will.
Okay.
And now I have this course that's 33 modules that are anywhere between an hour and 2 hours long that'll teach anybody more than they'll learn getting a degree in marketing. And I say that confidently because I've had people take my course and by the 3rd or 4th module say, we didn't learn any of this. They'll name some big university I don't want to call out. And I'll say that's because no one teaching it has had this experience. That's also because a brand new course in a university was developed and submitted 3 to 5 years ago. This stuff moves too quickly. So it's an interesting space because it's tarnished, it's muddled. Everyone says they do it. No one knows enough to vet the right company. And it kind of goes back to never ask someone for advice who hasn't done what you want to do. If you're going to get someone to be your social media admin, if you're going to hire an agency, look at their numbers. What have they done? What brand have they led to drive more traffic for results, get more engagement, get more email signups, help get more sales? What have they done? That's who you go with. And you should still learn, whether from me or someone else. I'm just going to text someone real quick because I'm going to be a little late for something, which is fine. Hey, I'm on a podcast. I'll let you know when I'm done. I'll be a few minutes after. Hang in there, brother. Okay, it's our sales manager. He'll be cool.
Okay.
What was he saying? I knew that would happen. Oh. You've got to, if you're going to hire someone, that's great. If you're going to get an agency or an in-house or that's great. But just like a restaurant manager, you've got to know how to clean the grill. You got to know how to change the fry vat oil. You got to know, like I did when I managed restaurants years ago, how to diagnose the HVAC system on the roof so you know whether or not your vendor or the mechanic's ripping you off or not. Doesn't mean you do all those things, but you should have a basic knowledge of marketing and what's really working and not look around and go, well, the 18 to 24-year-olds are doing this. I should do it. They must know. And I've heard people actually say this. I've heard people say, yeah, get the 18 to 24-year-olds. They're on social media. They'll know what to do. Huh? And nothing against 18 to 24-year-olds. But a lot of people that get put in a box like that, they don't know what a sales funnel is. They don't know what the brand archetypes are. They don't know what the triggers are. They don't know what power words are. I could go on and on and on and on. But sometimes people with one of these become a social media admin because they are needed. It fills a space. And now they want to go out on their own. I respect that. Not be working for the man or whatever, right? Mm-hmm. But even marketers are the hardest ones for me to get to take my course. One, because they think they know everything. Two, they don't want to tell on themselves that they don't. And three, they know they'll have to perform more for their clients if their clients find out they took my course. So it's just a really interesting ecosystem there. But learn at least the basics, folks. It's just like with everything that you want to improve in your business. You can't hire a sales manager without knowing something about sales. How would you even hire the right sales manager? You know? So that's my 3 cents on that.
Okay, great. What's one unforgettable moment or somebody that you just never envisioned you would be sharing screen time with or collaborating with on Drum Talk TV? Who's someone?
Oh, before you said Drum Talk TV, I was going to say other than you. So,
well, that's fine too. I mean,
yeah, this has been great. On Drum Talk TV, I mean, so many. There's so many. I'll name some, but there's so many that I grew up emulating and listening to, and I still have their albums I bought at the record store. Ian Pace of Deep Purple, Carmine Appice, who helped Rod Stewart write some of his biggest hits, his drummer, in the 80s. He played with Vanilla Fudge, Cactus, Ozzy Osbourne, Beck, Bogart, and Appice. I mean, the list goes on and on with that guy. Hal Blaine, the most recorded drummer ever. Hal Blaine played drums for everybody my parents listened to when I was growing up. Even though Karen Carpenter played drums, Blaine played on a lot of the albums. Simon and Garfunkel, Neil Diamond, The Fifth Dimension, The Monkees, so many different things. Nico McBrain of Iron Maiden, I've had on several times. Alan White of Yes, one of my biggest influences. I became friends with even long before I started Drum Talk TV. So it was great to have him on and become his friend for years, before his passing. Cindy Blackman Santana, Carlos Santana's wife, has been on a couple times, and she's always got wonderful life insight and musical insight. Those are some that were just holy bleep moments, especially the first times I got them on, because some of them have just come back on and on, repeat offenders. Denny Sywell, original drummer of Paul McCartney and Wings. Don Perry, who was the longest sitting drummer for Jethro Tull, one of my favorite bands. It just goes on, and it's still a trip. Like, I heard a long time ago, you treat people like rock stars and treat rock stars like people.
I like that.
Yeah. And my wife, like we would have a lot of these people over for dinner. Maybe they'd interview at my studio at the house, or we're going to go see them at a venue. When we lived in Vegas, this was easier. We'd pick them up after sound check, take them home for a home cooked meal, talk, chit chat, and then drive them back. And my wife was always like the least starstruck person. She said, if you bring Janet Jackson home, that's a different story. But other than that, she's just and we've become just such great normal friends with people who have done so well in music who I grew up listening to because of that. But that's a couple handfuls of them. So many others. I hate to leave anybody out. So I'll see pretty much everybody.
Right.
Hundreds of interviews. But I do have those moments. Like, I think there's a difference between being starstruck and talking to someone during an interview, let alone just sharing a casual meal and saying, holy shit, I'm with so-and-so, and I grew up listening to their records and trying to play like them. Carl Palmer of Emerson, Lake and Palmer. Oh, good grief. Just there's so many. And that's been fun. I think I'm having more fun as a drummer now than I ever have in my life. I'm not touring. I'm not recording. I'm not in a band. I'm not producing. But I'm doing interviews and documentaries and doing my own show. I play on the show. I do sit in and jam with some people from time to time. And there's like no pressure as a musician for me now. And there's a lot of people who do what I do, not just on drums, but other instruments that won't play as part of what they do on their show. I think they're afraid of being judged or something. Like, I'm not chasing that rainbow. I don't mind dropping a stick or totally screwing up or falling over while I'm playing. It's like, I don't care. You got to keep it real, man, right? You got to be authentic. Mm-hmm. And I love that part. And I think that's part of why people follow that show. It's called Dan's Almost Daily Vlog on Drum Talk TV, because I'm having a conversation through Facebook and YouTube Live where they're commenting and I'm looking at the camera talking, and I might demonstrate something or celebrate like Carl Palmer's birthday by playing some Emerson, Lake and Palmer songs and then chit-chatting with the audience. And I might pull something out of my armpit that I haven't played in 10 years and go, well, here goes. I don't rehearse. Like, rehearse? What? For what? I'm not chasing that rainbow, Right. Like I said, music should be fun. So I just get down the way I get down, and I'm the best one at being me. So that's all I got.
Right. Did you envision your journey playing out like this? As a kid that started out falling in love with drums, to playing with bands, to now pretty much being the thought leader in the space. Like,
the
did you envision it?
part never was like, and even when social media and the internet was present before I started doing this, not even close. I always thought that, especially once I got a taste of it and touring and recording and producing and all that would just keep going and I'd be one of these old rock stars. That's really what I thought. But I started having kids, getting tired of being in bands, moved more towards studio work and producing, and then ended up getting out of music professionally for a while. That I kind of left that dream behind, or I think I achieved it to a certain point and then just moved on to other stuff. But this whole media thing and marketing thing, I never imagined, but I can't even quantify how much I have fallen in love with it, what we do and what people say they get out of it. I just love that. It feels like I've done something meaningful. There's selfishness in it. There's absolutely some selfishness. Like when we're doing our game shows, I'm the one that gets to program it. But the team will say, okay, the next 6 months, we need 2 a month. What should the themes be? I'll chip in some things that are totally in my wheelhouse. Someone else will suggest something I know almost nothing about. So I learn, there's still some moments where I get to pull the strings and say, we're doing it this way. And I got this. But we do what we do for our audience infinitum. People of many different ages, races, cultures, the love of music from whatever they follow. We don't have any generic, is that a word? Generic or genre boundaries, if you will. We'll never pull that back in. And that's why we do what we do the way we do it. It is a something for everybody brand, other than the brand's voice. But as far as the content, it's something for everybody, but not everybody likes to have fun. A lot of people, they want it to be very academic and institutional. And the difference between Drum Talk TV and a couple other brands in our space, and even my marketing company and other brands, is that those brands are very academic, very straight-laced, starched shirts, creased sleeves. It's like walking down a long vinyl tile hall with the clickety-clack heels of dress shoes and fluorescent lights. Drum Talk TV and advanced social marketing is like lying on your back in a meadow and seeing what shapes of dinosaurs and pixies and angels you see from the clouds. That's the difference.
Yeah. And I feel like being a drummer isn't meant to be conservative and, wearing
Truth.
boring colors. Like, drumming is supposed to be coloring outside the lines and being somewhat of a rebel. So.
Yeah, you'd be surprised. I agree 1,000%. You'd be surprised on how many drummers were, I'll say, musically raised on the foundation of this is a drummer's job and they need to stay in this lane, is to support the song, is to just keep the time, is to give room for everybody. Well, if you look at what Neil Peart did with Rush, what Carl Palmer did with Emerson, Lake and Palmer, when you look what Buddy Rich did, when you look at all these drummers that did exactly what you just said, colored outside the lines, they were playing for that song in that style of music, the way that band did it. So, yeah, I get uptight when people get uptight about music. Mm-hmm. And I'm not arguing with them that drummers shouldn't do that for that, but there is so much more.
Right. All right, so as we prepare to close, just tell us what's next, and plug your whereabouts on social media and the website, whole nine.
Thanks, I appreciate it, LeTroy. For Drum Talk TV, if anyone wants to get a taste of our membership site, I have a code that I'll give out where you get a free year, no strings attached, something for everybody. It's not just for drummers. If you go to drumtalktvbrilliance.com and sign up and put in the code at checkout, all capital letters all together, DTTVB Dan Free. So DTTVBDANFREE, and it is case sensitive. You'll get a free year. Check it out. Come play the music trivia games. We did one last night on rock, pop, and soul bands with horns. And we did 3 rounds, 60s, 70s, and 80s, each round respectively. It's so much fun. Prize wheels, we give away prizes. It's a lot of fun. So people can check that out. You can follow Drum Talk TV at Drum Talk TV on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Vimeo, X, TikTok. We're deciding whether or not we want to stay there because TikTok's kind of changing right now. Then for my marketing company, advancedsocialmarketing.com. That's advancedsocialmarketing.com. Poke around. If you sign up for my email list, you'll always be notified on my free workshops that I do. They're about an hour to hour and a half. I'll pick a couple topics. There's always plenty of time for people to ask questions and even do follow-up with me if they want to send in a worksheet that was part of that workshop and get my feedback on it. I'm happy to do that. I'm not out to do all this to twist people's arms into paying for something or taking a course. If it lights them up enough, they'll do it. I don't know when this episode's out, but my next workshop is the evening of Thursday, August 21st at 4 p.m. Pacific. The next one after that will be September 25th at the same time. But yeah, poke around. And if you sign up for my email list there, you'll get a free PDF called 6 Steps to Daily Success. It's 6 things that every content creator or anybody that has a social channel for business should pay attention to. And it's straight out of my course. And people can just email me if they have questions. Hey, Dan, I heard this about hashtags. Is this true? Whatever. Just send in your questions.
All right.
And I appreciate it very much, LeTroy.
All right. Yeah, Dan Shinder, man. I appreciate your time today, man.
You too. Thanks.
This was real good.
Thank you.
Like you said, make sure you go poke around. Go to drumtalkbrilliance.com. Play some games. Just immerse yourself in this community that is continuing to grow.
Thank you.
Thank you again, Dan, for your time and for Stop, Look, and Listen. I'm your host, LeTroy Gardner. See you next week. Peace and blessings.